everyone once again to this Masterclass Series by Pragmatic Leaders. Today we have amazing speakers with us. Next one we have Satyaki Banerjee. He is AVP of Product Management at IDFC. He has a vast experience in building and scaling products for banking sector. He has worked for Kotak Bank in the past and is now improving digital banking experience for IDFC FIRST Bank.
Sure, thanks. I will just project my screen. Yeah. So, hi everyone. Now, what is a guesstimate question, right? The most brain dead and vanilla definition would be that it's a mixture of guesswork and estimation. Right? But what I didn't know when I started interviewing was why are guesstimates important in a product management interview? Piyush, for some reason, I'm not able to move forward. Is that something you have to do?
I don't
Just
think.
click on the screen once and on your screen and
Okay, got it. Now, yeah. So, thank you. Resuming the why of this question. So, the first part of why guesstimates, right? There are three parts here. One is how do you approach problem solving, right? Are you analytical when you hear a problem? Are you able to break it down into structures? How do you react to unknown questions? What something that we as product managers do on a daily basis is randomly figure out or think on our feet something is not working, some stuff that we thought will go live in at the last moment doesn't work out. Then how do you react to such unknown questions, right? Do you get frustrated? Do you enjoy the uncertainty, all of that? And the third part is where do you focus, right? uh, I'll, a lot of times what I see in interviews is the moment I ask a question, the candidates will move directly to answering it, right? But as a product manager, one of your key qualities should be spending as much time as possible in the problem space and exploring the problem, defining the problem, that okay, this is where we are, these are our challenges, these are our constraints, right? So these are the three things that you have to keep in mind before you answer a guesstimate questions, because the reason why knowing these three things is important is because now you know what is the interviewer actually looking for, right? Now there are 10 steps that help me answer guesstimate questions, and I'll just read through the list, but I'll take you through an example where I'll explain each step, right? Handhold you through the process, and then I'll throw up open another question which we will solve together. So one is you clarify the question, whatever question you're being asked. Why is clarifying important? I'll come to that. Second is you create a super equation or a broad structure that on the left hand side is what I need, and on the right hand side are the different pieces of the puzzle that I need to put together, right? Then you break it down in and solve each piece of that puzzle. Try to solve each piece of the puzzle. What you realize is, okay, here are some things, couple of things that I know, but here are most of things that I don't know, right? So it's good to take stock of what you know, your knowns and your unknowns. Out of your unknowns, get back to your interviewer and ask that sir, ma'am, or whoever, like Mr. Mrs., that these are the things that I don't know. Can you help me with some data points, figures, direction around these unknowns, right? The interviewer may choose to give you some hints, may choose to not give you hints. That's up to them, but you'll have to roll with that. Then what you do is you take these individual smaller pieces and you create mini equations out of them to solve each of them, right? Once you have done that, solve them in smaller blocks, you consolidate and come back to the broader superstructure that you had created, and then you arrive at your calculation, right? Once you have arrived at your calculation, one thing to note, I mean, that's been my experience personally, is that in any guesstimate question, it's not possible to cover all the edge cases, etc., right? So but if you don't so a good strategy, like one of the good strategies that I have observed is, some people who are good at guesstimates, they just list down that so this is my answer, but these are the things that I've not considered. What that does is, in a very smart way, you are trying to reduce the number of cross questions that can come forward from the interviewer, right? And Post that, before you actually go back to the interview and say, here's my solution, I've solved it, I mean, it's a good strategy to go through your steps and calculations 2 or 3 times to do a sanity check. And then as the 10th part or the last part of answering these questions, you take your interviewer through each step in a snapshotish way, right? The reason for that is often solving these questions take 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, 35 minutes, right? uh, just to give a recap to the interviewer that this is where we started, this is where we are, this is what we did, and this is what, right? So what I'll do is get on with one of the estimation questions, that estimate the number of Google searches that happen every day, right? Now, the first thing that we have to do is we have to clarify the question. Why? Because it's a smart thing to do. It reduces helps you reduce the scope of the question. Second is, good questions demonstrate good analytical capabilities. So these are the two reasons why I prefer asking clarifying questions. Some of the clarifying questions could be that when you say Google search, are we considering only manual searches, or are we considering automated API based searches that systems might be throwing out? Are we talking about searches across only for mobiles, or mobile plus web, right? Or and smart assistants, etc., right? The second thing that you do as part of the 10-step process is you create a super equation. It's sort of a structure around that problem. The equation here would be that total Google searches per day is number of unique daily users who access Google search multiplied by average searches per user per day, right? So for example, if average search per user is 5 and number of users is 10, then the number of daily, it's like a 50 is the number that you arrive at. Now, what you do is you break down that structure, right? On one hand, you have the first problem, that the number of unique daily users on Google search. On the second side, you have the daily number of searches. Now, um, take note, I'm going to solve these two problems in two different ways, right? As before, but before I do that, I list down my knowns and unknowns. I pretty much don't know anything at this point of time, but there are quite a few unknowns because we are talking about Google search, which is a massive ecosystem, and at a global scale that too. I would like to know some numbers, right? Like, what is the global population? Because we are talking global Google search scale here. uh, how many people in the world have internet access? Uh, we for a fact know that Google doesn't work in China. Yandex is popular in Russia. uh, that's the geographical part of it. Also the economic part of it, how much market share does Google hold across the world on an average, right? And also please do ask your interviewer that apart from all these things that I'm asking, is there any other data point that you can give out to me, right? I mean, you might just get lucky. Sorry. Now, so you ask the interviewers for your unknowns, and these are the answers that you get, right? Global population is 7.8 billion. Population with access to internet is 3.9 billion. Chinese population is 1.5 billion. Russian population is 150 million. And global market share for Google is 90%, right? Also, 50% of Russian search market is with Google and 50% with other players like Yandex, Bing, all of them, right? Now you solve your mini equations, right? We had chalked out two different problem statements. One was daily use number of users, and second was daily average searches, right? Which we are going to solve in two different ways. Now, unique daily users, I'm going to use the data that I have received from my interviewer, that let's say the global population is 3.9 billion. From this global population with access to internet. Now from this, I'll remove the Chinese population and 50% of the Russian population, right? Then I'll share the subtract the 10% market share that other competitors generally have. So if now here's another important thing, that when you are given any numbers, let's say for example population with internet access 3.9 billion, please always, for the sake of have make being able to crack it easily and quickly, round off your numbers. So I can say that 3.9 billion, let's assume 4 billion, right? I remove 1.5 billion, 70 million of Russia and 400 million of competitors. I'm left with 2 billion potential users that are using Google search on a daily basis. Right. Now the second part, right? While the first part was me trying to solve it with data, the second part is going to be me trying to estimate, right? And one of the things that I do with these kind of questions specifically, especially questions around internet based products, etc., is use sort of the Pareto principle that 80% of your productivity comes from 20% of the people, right? So what I do is I straight away consider that there are three categories of users, a basis frequency of usage. One is the occasional users who do negligible or nothing, right? Let's just assume 50% of people don't do anything, right? That's 1 billion people doing zero searches. Then the medium frequency users who will probably Google one or two things. Let's just assume that 2 searches per day, right? Which is about 30% of your population, which is 2.2 billion searches. Then are your power users, right? Now, power users are people who use, probably people like me who Google 10 times or more uh, in a day. So let's say that's 20%. That's the minority crowd that you have, right? 20% of people do about 4 billion searches, right? Now you consolidate both the pieces of the puzzle. Total number of daily Google searches in the world then is occasional users into number of daily searches plus medium frequency users into number of their daily searches plus power users into their number of daily searches, which gives us a figure of 6.5 billion. And now I don't know if the number is true or false, but this is just how I would solve it. That basis the structure that I have followed so far, all the basis each and every step, I arrive at the conclusion that there are about 6.5 billion searches, Google searches, that are happening every day. Now, before the interviewer cross questions me, I would like to just list out that I have not considered search happening on any other products, like people searching on Gmail for some email, on YouTube, all of that. Any search that is happening via any API, and voice search, Google Next, smart assistants, all of that, right? I do a quick glance through that. Okay, this is what I've done, this. And then I will, at the end, walk the interviewer through my steps, which is a give your interviewer a snapshot that this is where we started. This was my stepwise approach. This was the end result, which is 6.5 billion searches. And these are the assumptions, right? One of the assumptions I made was 50% people don't do anything, 30% search 2 times a day, 20% search 10 times a day. Right? So that's about it. Now, one question that I have for, I'll obviously take questions. So Kevin, should we take questions first, or should we open this question out up to the candidates that
I think you can go ahead and run this question with the candidates. Let them get the hands-on experience of doing a real guesstimate. I think since it's fresh in their mind right now, and if they have doubts, you will clarify.
Yeah.
Along the way. Yeah.
Right. So the question is, can you estimate the number of WhatsApp chats that are being sent across India every day? Right. This is specific to India, number of chats on WhatsApp that's happening every day. This is the the 10-step process that I just followed to estimate number of Google searches happening every day. I'll just let this be out there and give you guys a couple of minutes to work through the solution. The question is, estimate number of chats happening on WhatsApp every day across India.
So, Taki, you're having some questions. I think clarification questions being posted on the chat.
I'm just trying to go to Zoom. 1 minute.
So some of them are trying to solve it. I think it's a good way to clarify them and they can continue solving it.
Yeah. Yes.
Satyaki, you have to answer a lot of questions. If you read a question now, just say it here, say the answer on the chat, on the screen, so everybody hears it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Will be easier for you.
Yeah. So does this include forwards? Yes, they do include forwards. Are we considering any one-way chats? All chats. I send you hi, you send me hi. That's 2 chats. Yes, messages, in short messages.
And what we could also open up, Satyaki, maybe if somebody is interested to work by the solution and
yeah. Also, by the way, guys, these are for the sake of brevity and time. I'm giving away the data points that I want to give away. So you can step the 5th step. So yeah, anybody who wants to volunteer can come. Please join in.
just raise your hand or some gesture on screen, and we'll call you up. Not to be nervous, just say what you thought. I mean, there's no right or wrong. We're all working through it.
I mean, neither do I know the answer to this question. So people who are asking how many users are there, the data is out there on the screen.
And if I'm not wrong, these things can be assumed. I mean, when you're at an interview and things like that.
Yeah.
You can tell your interviewer that this is an assumption I'm making, as long as it's some logic to make that assumption.
Exactly. So I'll just move on to the first step, the clarifying question. I think a lot of people have already asked that is this, for example, is this for only mobile chats, or are we considering mobile and web? Are we considering forwards? Are we considering video, GIFs, different formats, right? I think we have excluded voice messages. So now the next step is to create a super equation, right? So anybody who wants to type out the super equation they're coming up with. Super equation is nothing but just like a broad overview of this is what I want on the left hand side, and these are the pieces of my puzzle on the right hand side. Correct. So Rohan society, I think. Okay.
Rohan has put something.
Yeah, which is more or less what I'll go with. That number of WhatsApp chats per day is number of daily active users, DAO for short, but daily active users on WhatsApp, multiplied by average number of chats sent by by a user per day. Right? Now you have to break down the problem. So what Rohan has put out is actually more or less the formula that we want to put out.
Now we need to plug in the numbers.
Plug in the numbers. So they'll have to break it down first.
Right.
So I'll just take it forward. We have two problems here. If we go by the formula, number of WhatsApp chats per day is equal to number of daily active users on WhatsApp multiplied by average number of chats sent by each user every day on average, right? So yeah. So basis that equation, we have two problems that we want to solve. One is daily active users on WhatsApp. How do you get that? And second problem is average number of chats sent per day per user. So I'll take you back to my previous question where I showed you how I solved two problems in two different ways. Right. I think people are getting the flow here. So should I move forward, Kevin?
Yeah, please go ahead. I think we're getting the answers, we're having chats, so that's good. They're working on it. We can move forward. Yeah.
So I have already listed out the data points, right? So we know the number of internet users in India. We know the number of smartphones in India. We know the market share that WhatsApp holds in India, which is about 65%. Right. Now we have to solve the mini equation first. The first mini equation is daily active users on WhatsApp, right? Which I think someone has already solved it on chat. About 65% of 624 million, so 400 million. The second one is average number of chats sent per day per user, and someone solved it here. Okay, anyway. So like I mentioned, three categories of potential users: not so active. Let's say that's about 50% of your 400 million, which is 200 million active users. About 5 chats per day. Rough estimation: 30% of your 400 million does on average 5 chats per day. So 600 million chats. And highly active users who probably send out 50 texts per day, which is 20%, 80 million of your 400 million, right? So sum total, when you consolidate both of these pieces, you see that the not so active users into number of daily chats plus active users into their number of daily chats plus highly active users into their number of daily chats comes to roughly 1 billion texts or chats that people are sending across India every day. I don't know if the number is correct, but this is what I arrive at following my step. What I'll do is I'll list down my edge cases. I have not considered web chats. I have not considered voice chats. I'll do a quick sanity check and I'll walk the interview through. Right. So yeah, that's about it. And yeah.
Right. So, Satyaki, that was a topic that you've taken that ideally takes. I have actually been through guesstimate sessions and uh, presentations and workshops on this, and it's something that takes maybe an hour and a half at a minimum.
Yeah.
And really appreciate you taking this through within a span of probably around 20 minutes, little lower, around 30 minutes, right? So that is brilliant. And best thing is we saw people engaging with it. We saw the participants engaging with it. uh, we do have, of course, someone who has an apprehension, but that's okay. uh, you know uh, the idea is that the bulk got a first-hand work through with your initial example, and then they were trying to solve, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
uh,
So just to address someone who has said that just Google it and you'll get the answer. One thing, so I have been in this place where I'm not a B school guy. I just done my engineering. I prefer to stay that way. So I've not been taught how to answer it. So when I tried Googling things, one thing that I couldn't find is I get what you're solving, your answers, but how the hell do I go through the process? So I would say don't focus on the question, focus on the steps. I hope that adds some value to your interviews.